Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to the Energy Espresso. I'm your host, Dave Bosco, and here this week with Josh Jones from AFEX.
Hey, what's happening, man?
Good, Josh. Been enjoying the show?
Yeah, can't complain at all. You know, these guys do things real big here in Texas, so it's been a fun time as always.
Absolutely, dude. And for those folks who aren't fully aware of what's going on this week, we're in the Permian Basin here in Midland. The Daniel Energy Partners Barbecue is going on. And as always, DEP and the folks at Upright do a stand-up job, really put together what I would call the Super Bowl of the oil and gas industry, bringing together friends, colleagues, peers. You don't get this much horsepower, I think, even in Davos.
No.
At least it's meaningful for, right here in the heart of the oil patch in Midland and, in the U.S., but digressing. So, Josh, you and I have known each other for a while, man.
Yeah, man.
And, we've had a long journey at AFEX and been moving up in the company. What are you guys kind of seeing today in the market as far as what you're focusing on? And maybe before that, for folks who aren't familiar with AFEX, kind of frame up for the audience here, what is AFEX? What do you guys do?
Great question. AFEX is a fire suppression system at its simplest description, but what it really is it's a way to provide risk management on your assets that provide production into the oil field. So for instance, like your frac pumps, back in the day, we used to run at them with fire extinguishers and put out the fire, or maybe have a field firefighting crew. And as technology, progressed and started to, basically get more complicated, more horsepower on site, it was realized, man, we really would like to have a way to remotely address fire without having to put somebody in harm's way. And so back in 2016, maybe 17, we were called into the industry by one of the players here in the Permian, and the rest is history. We've kind of proliferated from there and are basically doing fire suppression and power gen and hot oil machines, fracking, power drill gen sets, sputter rigs, you name it. I mean, pretty much anything out there that has an engine that's tied to production or is within a certain percent of certain distance of the wellhead, we're putting fire suppression on. So that's AFEX at a minute, a little bit longer to describe it, but
a little elevator pitch.
Yeah, right.
For folks that may not, understand fire suppression, right?
Sure.
You usually either have fire extinguishers, and that's got an agent inside of it that, essentially removes oxygen, correct me if I'm wrong, that feeds the fire. Is that correct? Or is it more of like a chemical agent that's used?
It's a chemical, so we do a couple of things, right? So you can remove the oxygen. So maybe a stationary power gen or a building system, you would use maybe a CO2 to displace oxygen, right? And so we do that for certain, applications in the fire industry. For what we do primarily is we focus on like ultra class mining machines. That's really why we got called into the industry, was underground and ultra class mining. So we use an agent, ABC powder, and we basically direct nozzles around the machine based on a fire risk assessment to knock out fire quickly. So you have these nasty hydraulic spray fires that just take off on you. Powder is exceptional at knocking those down as fast as they originate. And then the other thing we do, if the machine has a lot of horsepower, like some of your guys' stuff or some of the other stuff in the industry, we'll put liquid on it to cool down the reflash ability of the fire. So if you take away the heat and you knock out the fire, you have a really good chance of controlling that before it turns into a bigger fire. I think the nerd word for it is incipient fire control. So first line or first stage fire control. That's the strategy that we've really put into the oil field. Something that has been done in mining for many, many years, but we make machines new like every week, it feels like. There's some new thing. And so I guess that discipline just never came over from the other side of things, but now it is. So here we are.
And what's the genesis of AFEX? Like, where did it start? Because you said you got into oil and gas as a business in 2016, 2017. You mentioned underground mining. How'd the business start? What was the focal opportunity of, you guys commercializing this and bringing it to bear in the market?
Sure. So AFEX is a little over 55-year-old company, and we started off in forestry, of all things.
Forestry.
Yep. So there were systems on machines, dry powder extinguishers with a hose and nozzles that went out on forestry machines, and it was our company that pioneered and developed the automatic system, so a way to detect fire and then set off the system remotely without operator intervention, but also alerting the operator. And so we got our start in forestry and then grew into mining, waste industries, and other areas where you really have the 4 Ps. And the 4 Ps are places where you have people, productivity that has to be maintained. And by putting fire suppression systems on, you also protect the profit and the public image of the company. So I also really hate to say the F word, which is fire, even though we're a fire suppression company,
because it's thermal event.
Thermal event is the more accepted,
yes,
the more accepted thing in the industry. Yeah, exactly. We had a heat event.
Yes.
And so I've learned that in the industry, but really at our core is we're heavy equipment people that do fire suppression. So, a lot of companies focus on buildings or kitchens or things like that, and so that's a discipline within the fire world. We focus on things that move, things that produce power, things that are out there doing the hardest industries on earth, and how do you have a risk management strategy to address fire? And we take our systems and do that. And so that's why we're prolific in the oil field, prolific in mining, and all these other industries where you have these big $1 million plus machines that you cannot afford to lose.
Yep.
And so the biggest honor to me is when I have a customer who goes, hey, we set off your system and all we had to do was replace a hose, right? That's the best.
Absolutely. And I would imagine, as, a customer of AFEX, I'm going to speak from, my personal kind of perspective. You hope you never have to use it.
Yeah.
But the, kind of like peace of mind of knowing, hey, you're gonna go ahead and use that to suppress a thermal event from creating a bigger problem, like being able to remove that agent if it went off and go, okay, hey, we got some cleanup that needs to happen, versus prior to this kind of like, adoption of that technology in oil and gas and frack, right?
Yeah.
You would end up burning entire fleets down to where, if you've never seen a trailer that has been almost, literally melted, right? It's insane.
Bowed in the middle.
Yeah, it's crazy. So like the safety piece of this from a human being perspective is obviously number one, but then protecting the costs on the assets and that productivity side of it, those are obviously added, important benefits.
For sure.
Talk to me about you make the initial CapEx investment in something like that. You use the word kind of from an insurance perspective. Are there benefits for companies that have this from an insurance premium? Is that something you guys have been able to kind of work in as part of the business strategy?
So we discuss it. Every industry has its own values. Even between fracking companies, you have different policy lines based on what you're doing, right? So there's no one number things that I can really give, but I can say that when it comes to Lloyd's of London, when it comes to the reinsurance, excess specialty markets, and the people that sell those lines, that stuff, at least in oil and gas, has almost become mandatory for a lot of operations. But really in other parts of the world, it is seen as a very favorable position because our systems are manufactured to several standards, one of which is factory mutual heavy duty mobile equipment. And so that is a standard here used in the US based on factory mutual testing that says, hey, this system is fit for purpose for this type of work, which we're in heavy duty mobile equipment in oil and gas. Even though we drive these things down the road, as soon as you pull them off the road, you're going down a road that's 10 times worse than any mining road you'd ever see. There's scrapers on the mining road protecting these $2 to $3 million trucks.
Yeah, they're grooming at least the roads.
Your trailers, which are for your power gen $1 million a megawatt or more, you're rolling those things down the road and it's like a washboard. So that type of rating has to be in place too, to make sure that the systems are fit for purpose. Fit for purpose is a word that we really hang our hat on, because reliability has to be in place. Because if the system doesn't work, or the system isn't maintained, which is also part of the strategy, something your company does a great job at, making sure that you get your semi-annual inspections, that you do the things to make sure that the system works per NFPA. All those things tied together, when you go to your insurer, that is a very big plus for them, and there are savings that are available, not just in oil and gas, but in mining, forestry, waste management. You know, I think of in forestry, Acadia has policy provisions for having fire suppression, but it has to be the right type of fire suppression. It has to be well vetted, it has to be fit for purpose, and frankly, it has to survive these really difficult and challenging environments that we work in.
Yeah.
Especially like the North Slope of Alaska, or hell, we're in the desert now, right?
Yep.
Or the Saudi desert.
Yep.
Like all that matters. It has to be able to last. And you know, our system lasts 12 years, which honestly for a lot of equipment is longer than the equipment life. So
absolutely.
Let's take it and put it on another machine, I guess.
No, that's really cool. That's really cool. Talk to me a little bit. So we learned a little bit about AFEX.
Yep.
Want to learn a little bit about Josh. Where'd you come from? Like, where did you start out business-wise? Did you originally work for AFEX for first job, or did you kind of like enter into this market and, you know, deviated from something else? I know the answer, but listen, I want the audience obviously to have a little bit of, you know, moment of kind of like peak here.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is great because, you know, you're like, I know you're in Houston, you're embedded, you've been there for a while, you're a Michigan guy.
No, not.
Or not. Well,
I worked for a Michigan company. Yes.
But you know, you're not traditional. You are a Texan.
No, I definitely am not traditional.
You're not traditional either.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting at here.
That's not the first time I've heard that, by the way.
Well, that's why we get along, man.
Yes.
Because we're different cats.
Definitely different.
So I'm kind of a rare gem. I'm a North Carolinian working in the oil field, and so there aren't that many people from North Carolina that come over to this. So honestly, my background has been very diverse. I grew up on a tobacco farm, multi-generational, you know, back to the time of the Revolution, old family with the furniture and the tobacco life. And then I went to UNC Chapel Hill, got a degree in peace, war, and defense with focus on international defense and security and counterintelligence and all this stuff. And then, like any good liberal arts major, instead of going into the government, I was like, you know what, I want to make money, I'm going to go into manufacturing.
Yeah.
And so I got into a series of different manufacturing roles. I did telecom, I even did some publishing sales along the way. And then I really cut my teeth at a Dutch multinational that did security products. And so I took that peace, war, and defense background from UNC, and I went to places like the Pentagon, places like DOE, and we started selling these high-tech security doors. And then that led me, along with a colleague of mine at the time, to go into Texas and sell these doors to Chevron and Shell and some of these other companies that needed compartmentalized security. And so it was because of those relationships that my boss now, president of AFEX, Jeanette Miller, she called me one day after leaving my last company and said, hey, you sold stuff to oil and gas companies. Come work for AFEX. We just got a call about frac pumps and we need your expertise. And I said, interesting. Jeanette, I sold stuff to the security team, but yeah, I'll come in and do the interview. And so from that manufacturing life and high-tech security, I came over to oil and gas. And much like Ricky Bobby when he's doing his first interview, I'm sitting there going, what do I do with my hands? What's a frac pump? I don't know what a frac pump is. I'm just a North Carolinian. You know, like, we just got shoes on our feet. And so it has been the biggest learning curve. And in that time, since early 2018, when I got brought over to this company as an OEM manager, we realized very quickly that the need was apparent in fracking for this type of system.
Oh yeah.
And so I went to collect every person that knew everything more than me and surround myself with them, because I knew just the engineering in this industry is tremendous. There's no way I could learn it all like a lot of my last industry, which was, you know, more like peripherals coming in, but the core product was kind of the same.
Yeah.
This is, I'm taking a product that's the same and putting it on a million different things. So I feel like I'm riding the learning curve, like the little yodeling man at Price is Right, just straight up the hill. But like you're one of the first people I met, so you're one of my first friends in the industry, because MTU was an early adopter of this type of technology.
Yep.
Thanks to one of the frac companies here that uses a lot of MTUs that brought us in. And so from there we grow into, you know, MTU, Caterpillar, and now other places like Janbacher, Waukesha, and all these different engines that now we're looking at and going, holy cow, that's a fire risk. And so really, I'm the sum total of my relationships and people that know way more about the industry, and I help consult with them to make sure that we don't burn stuff up, and that's what our team does. You know,
Super cool.
I'm no better than the people around me, so whether that's good or bad in oil and gas, that's where I'm at. I'm in the industry, baby.
That's it. That's a measure of you surround yourself with good people and way smarter people than yourself to be able to go ahead and, you know, get to those next stages and work as a team. That's a really good management kind of philosophy and style. That I think you can do the opposite, and it's going to be way freaking harder, because you can go and plant the seed after you till the land, water it, add light, grow the tree, cut the tree down, process the tree, package it up, deliver it yourself. Becomes exhausting, you lose quality, and then you can't focus on what you do best.
That's right.
So I mean, like leaning in and being able to, you know, have a team to support you, it's freaking critical.
Yeah, we have to make the same thing over and over and over again to perfection. You know, for instance, our operations president, he literally was telling us the other day with his quality team that before the parts even get to the factory, we reject 17,000 parts a year before they even hit our floor and process.
Wow.
Because if we can't use it, then we're not going to pass it along to the customer, and that includes things that we manufacture ourselves. That's just the total value chain.
Yeah,
you know, that's the level of scrutiny we put into the product.
No, dude, that's a great statistic, because having the ability to go, hey, this is not going to meet our quality standards, versus like, oh, you know what, could it work, could it not work?
Yeah.
With that moment that button or system, that button needs to be pressed or that system has to go off, that like cheap little 15-cent piece that could have been the failure item is going to create a lot more havoc. So no, there's winning right is important.
For sure.
Talk to me about business-wise. You guys, and you just got back from Saudi Arabia, if I'm not mistaken, because the picture you shared was freaking awesome.
Yeah, sometimes you have fun.
You got to. If you're not having fun in life, especially doing what you love business-wise every single day, you better find a new damn job.
You know, it's a rat race sometimes. You know, we meeting, travel here, travel there. You take a picture of something, and so, you know, we had an opportunity to do some cool stuff in Saudi with some new partners that we're working with, and got to go out in the Red Sea. So, you know, it's just one of those things that
stop and smell the flowers every once in a while.
Right, you got to. Otherwise, you're going to burn yourself into a nub. And, you know, my wife is very gracious to allow me to go out here and travel to do this, and that's right, she allows me.
Yep.
Because at home there's a general, and her name is Christy.
1000%. My wife's name is Krista.
Oh, so nice.
First off, we're apparently like striking in the right zone here. K or C?
C.
Okay. Phonetically, same.
Yeah, CHRISTIE.
I like it.
Yeah.
But CEO, CFO, COO, you just execute, I'm assuming?
Yeah, exactly.
Same.
I'm just a VP, just a lowly VP.
Listen,
I just go here and I go there and I do what I'm told.
I love it, man. I love it. Your guys' product and use internationally?
Yes. So to go
Obviously,
back to
if you're in Saudi Arabia, you didn't go over there just for fun.
For sure. So, companies like Aramco and ADNOC, they work in some of the most challenging environments too. And so as equipment from the States gets funneled over there, the demand and the need as they develop their oil field, now that pressures are down and they're able to do more gas fracking, they're seeing the same problems we had here back in 2012 to 2018, or even, we have some now, but not nearly like we did, where they lose fleets, people get hurt, people get killed. And I'll tell you, Aramco's super serious, as well as ADNOC, about making sure that their people come home. They're as fanatical as we are about it, and it's a very important part of their culture. So adopting systems that make sure that people come home, so they're not being heroes and running to a fire with an extinguisher, that's important. And then secondary to that, they don't want to lose their assets, because while there is a bit of a glut of tier 2 available market out there, it still takes time to get it over there, and you might be without a frac pump for 6 months or more. And I promise you, Aramco is very punitive when it comes to not performing. They take their performance incredibly seriously. So they will light you up with charges. So performing and producing definitely helps. And then at the end of the day, if you can't perform and produce, your public image is dinged with them and you're out. So going over there to meet with friends that we've been working for the past 4 years, things that we've developed on my team, has been really rewarding. And then watching this oil field grow into electrons is the next really awesome challenge. So it's I look forward to the challenges. I have a good team, I have good partners, and the fun part is we all get to do it together and have fun.
Absolutely.
That's what matters to me.
No,
if I stop having fun, I'm out. I'll go back to North Carolina, I'll go fish around the Outer Banks, and go back to my pastoral life with my wife and chickens and all of that stuff, dogs and cats. A mini horse if I'd allow it.
Is that in the plan, as a mini horse?
Yeah, she wants one really bad. I'm looking at the camera, breaking the fourth wall here, but yeah, she wants a mini horse really bad, bro.
If it's anything like my wife, she's going to just make the decision, and you're going to have to execute on picking up the crap in the yard.
100%, right? Hey, they say happy wife, happy life, but I have to be happy too. But I always focus on her happiness, and it comes back to me in the end. So if I have to be a chicken tender when I come home, then so be it. I'll tend to the chickens.
They at least give you eggs.
That's right. Delicious eggs.
Yes. You brought up the leadership and the team perspective. Your team manage folks here in the United States only, or globally?
Globally. So, we have multiple sides of the business. Oil and gas is a portion of the business. The majority is mining. Ultra-class mining has adopted fire suppression, over 30 years ago. So it's a known thing. In our industry, it hasn't been adopted as quickly, but is now. And a lot of that is just because we move really fast. And so we had firefighters, and, but as the equipment changes, the need changes. So that's when we've come in. But for AFEX, we have people, we've got a guy in Cambridge, UK, that manages our rest of world business. We've got a guy who covers Asia Pacific, South Africa. We just picked up a new guy, formerly of Halliburton, that's going to be working for Middle East. Part of the Egyptian mafia, as they say. So that's like middle management and management in the Middle East are all Egyptians, and it's true. So, Sabah khair, my habibi. Because I think it's morning time there, I don't know. And then we have people in South America is probably our most robust market. The Andes mining all the way up through Mexico, we own a lot of that. And so we have a lot of Latin American speakers, or Spanish speakers from Latin America. And, my boss, Jeanette, who our president of sales, she is Chilean American, so she helped cut her teeth in that market. And that's really where we get a lot of our discipline from. But what's been great about oil and gas is we've learned how to break that mold and do it the oil and gas way now.
Yeah.
Because we take, I mean, you should know of anybody out of the MTU days, you're taking an engine from a haul truck and now you're putting it on a frac pump. You're going to break things.
Yep.
The same is true with fire suppression. You know, you do one thing here, one reason, you come to another side, it's different.
It is.
So that's why we have a great team, not just technical, but BDMs and you know, sales engineers and
support people
that help.
Also.
Yeah, people here in Texas that work for us, and great partners that help distribute the product.
I love it, man. What's your, from a management style perspective, because everybody from a leadership has different theories. What makes Josh's brain tick with how you manage a team, drive high performance, and the right culture inside of the business from a commercial standpoint?
Well, that's a great question, because you know, I'm onboarding a newer employee over the past 6-7 months, and you know, she was really eager to learn what to say, when to say it, and all of these tactical things. And I would stop her and go, look, the first thing we're trying to do before anything else is cultivate belief and trust the team internally for what you need to do. Because if you don't believe in what we do, I can tell you what to say, I can tell you when to say it, how to say it, but if you don't believe and understand what it is that we're doing and how we're doing, and the most important is the why, the value to the customer, then it's not going to work. So I'm very macro, you know, and people that work with me will say, you know, I'll get into details a little bit too much in the weeds, and I do tend to do that because I have a technical sales engineer heart. You know, I was a mechanic for a time before I went to college. So turning wrenches at Ford makes you want to take things apart in your mind.
1000%.
But I step back from that. Yeah, exactly. But I step back from that and I go, you know what, man, the most important thing, because not everybody's technical, is why are we here? Why are we here? Why are we doing this? And why is this important? And if you can cultivate that belief first, then you can work everything out tactically. You know, you hire people with skills, you know what their skills are. I focus on getting the headspace right first before we go out and try to just be robots and just do things in a robotic, like, hi, I'm here to sell something. And, you know, I don't love that part of old sales training. I'm very much like, we need to figure out the impacts. You know, what do you want? What's the impact of what you want? And then that gets to your needs, and then you talk about solutions, right? It's like, it's wins is kind of what we call it at AFEX.
Absolutely.
So we use that strategy. If I don't know what you want and the impact of what you want, there is no way that I can tell you what you need with a solution. Zero.
No, you got to be curious and ask questions to get to the, hey, with them, what's in it for me as a customer?
And if what we do doesn't match what somebody else does, that's great. I would rather race to that point of a no or a it doesn't make sense for us, than to sit here and try to make a round peg fit in a square hole, or vice versa. It just doesn't make sense. So it's okay not to work with everybody. And so I try to encourage that too. It's like, hey, be strong in your conviction that you can show up and not everybody's going to love you. That's okay.
It's part of life.
We're not for everybody, bro.
No, 1000%. And that sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, in the end it materializes, you know, and those folks that end up maybe not seeing the value, they come around, because enough people end up going, why did this company standardize on this? We thought it was stupid when we talked to those guys 2 years ago, but it, no pun intended, caught fire as far as like from a popularity and business value standpoint, to go like, shoot, I feel like a dumbass.
That's very fair. Look, I
you can take that moment to have a certain sense of pride when that happens and go like, okay, fine, price is double, but
I'm not a monster, Dave.
Or lean in and be like, look, things happen. I'm glad you ended up warming up and you had somebody else that needed to show you this was what we shared it was. For sure. Tangible value associated with it.
We see that in our industry. You know, for an industry where my biggest competitor for years was not fire suppression.
Yes.
My dream and hope isn't that everyone standardizes on AFEX. That would be great. I would love that. What I want to see is everybody taking this methodology, this discipline, and multiplying it out in all the places where we're putting men at harm and women at harm, when we could just as easily have a system that is 1% or less the cost of the valued asset or the things around it, to where it's automated and you just set it and forget it. You know, somebody we work with who, you know, I respect a lot used to say, hey man, you just set it and forget it. Right? Now that's a very high level. We don't want you to forget about it. You need to inspect it and take care of it.
Sure.
But your operators, you shouldn't be worrying about, oh my gosh, do I have to fight fire? It's, hey, we have a protocol. This is what happens when the alarm goes off. You do these things, X, Y, Z, and then you go out. You get out of there.
Yep.
We don't want to make heroes. We want our people to go home.
All day long. That's the people piece of this is so important. I think a lot of folks lose sight. I'm of the opinion from a leadership perspective, like the upside down pyramid, and as leaders, you're at the bottom.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah.
And you know, somebody who was a mechanic at one time in my life, the folks in the field doing the work, like they're at the top. The guy sweeping the floors, they're at the top.
Yep.
What everybody sees is the most, like, you know, take it for granted job that you never stop to realize how important that person is inside the business. We can, you know, make things happen, right, from a leadership and a commercial perspective, but the operations team and the folks who execute and have to live with that in the field, the business actually doesn't happen without them. And a lot of folks, I think, get arrogant in thinking they are the most important person, where you're just accountable is what it really is.
That's correct. I will tell, and for anybody who's known me for a while in this industry, they also know my counterpart technically, who has been everywhere. He's probably more well known than I am on this product because he works with the people, and he is 50% of my success. But Theo Snow is my guy who came out and trains, and to this day trains everyone in the oil field, including your teams and everyone, to go out and get certifications, how to interact with the product, does the installations, get things set up. And you know, obviously we help in that process from the engineering and the sales engineering side, which is kind of what I am at the core, is just a glorified sales engineer. But Theo, my homie, is always out there working to make sure that the people know what AFEX is and how to use it. Because the worst part the worst part of having a system that doesn't work and you press a button and it doesn't work is not having the proper training for people to know what to do with the system.
1000%.
Again, the Ricky Bobby moment, man. What do I do with my hands?
Yes. You got to know how to freaking operate it, maintain it, and when you got to use it, know it's going to freaking work.
Yeah, that's the important piece. And you know, it helps. You know, one of the greatest honors for me in this industry is seeing how the industry has responded to this product, whether they use our systems or not. I see it more and more. I see it being built in on everything, and that is a point of pride for me, because again, I wasn't here to win at all. I'm here to spec the industry and help make it better, because there is a need for it.
Yeah.
Everyone I talk to, whether it's people like you in leadership, people on the insurance side, the E&Ps that we all work for, or even the people in the field who've had lost people or been severely injured by fire, like that's what it's important for me, is making sure that we have something that can bring everybody home.
Yep.
And then also save the machine, right?
Sure. No, I think that cultural kind of like paradigm shift in the industry, oil and gas specifically, it is one of the toughest things to break of cultures. Is my great-granddaddy did it this way, my granddad did it this way, my dad did, I do it this way, my brother and my sister do, so why the hell would I ever change?
I didn't use gloves. I use cotton dot gloves.
Yeah.
And then to convince the guys cotton dot to use impact, and you have the hand injury studies, right?
Yep.
And they're like, oh no, I'll use cotton dots, and then you finally get to impacts. Well, that's very similar to our story. Well, we'll use a fire extinguisher. Well, we got a fire hose, and now Now we're using incipient fire control. And we're not a replacement for those things either. You know, I've got colleagues and friends in the fire world that are doing firefighting. I think that is also an important piece that you can have as a way to address fires that are beyond the scope of fire risk assessment that we do as a company for the machine.
Sure.
So like having a way to get people off site or a secondary CAFS unit, like that stuff's important too.
1000%. And that culture piece of it, it's been really cool as, you know, I got into this industry in 2005-ish timeframe.
Yeah.
And, you know, around, I would say like 2008, 2010, you started to see minds change. And now how quickly we are adopting new technologies in oil and gas, it's not your granddaddy's business anymore.
No.
We are leaning into folks that are not from this industry, which is good because, you know, like your guys' experience in mining, that is actually super refreshing because mining, a lot of people who may not be familiar with it, I've talked about it before, they know down to the smallest decimal point, right? 5 places to the right of the decimal point, exactly what they're getting out of that mine every single day. They show people what their bonuses are. The surgical approach that mines have is something that we're trying to strive to achieve in oil and gas and doing a really good job in making, you know, milestone progresses. But I think embracing, you know, folks who think differently and come at it from a very, very different, like, sideways approach we may think, but it's actually the right way to approach it, right? Yep.
Well, that's, you know, I'll name a couple of names here, people that really are kind of the grandfathers of this product coming into the industry, but it's people like Roy Awney and Greg Kessler. Those guys have been here a while. James Bowden. Then you've got, you know, on the equipment side, you've got your Zach Thorntons, your Larry Browns. Those guys brought us in. Jeff Smith, Chad Jost, Chris Harvell. Those guys were kind of the pioneers of relationships to get those out. You guys, Scott Woodruff and you over at MTU back in the day, like those were the relationships, the Caterpillar boys and girls, right? All of those guys worked together to go, yeah, we probably should be doing this. And really it's based off of that mining approach. It's funny you say they know down to the number. I was at a mining event that was like mining and energy in Dammam literally 2 days ago on Monday, and flew here to the Permian Basin barbecue, and one of the miners stood up and he goes, it takes per truck when I'm down $6,482.17 an hour that truck's not running. If you don't have a final drive and it takes me a week, and he's over there calculating, it takes me this much. Which is incredible.
It is.
He had it down to the penny.
And you should. I mean, Scott Sheffield, Pioneer Natural Resources. I went and saw him speak here in the Permian in 2017. And he said his aspirations for our industry were 2 things. Either we adopted the aviation model or the mining model. And the aviation model, that, you know, that time their office was in Las Colinas. And DFW Airport is, you know, right over yonder. And he said, I can see planes take off like clockwork. They know exactly how many passengers they need to have, what cargo they need to have to be able to make that plane make sense to get off the ground into the air, A, and then B, the safety standards to be able to ensure that folks get from point A to point B safely, right? And that's really cool to be able to kind of go, hey, you know, what's that, freaking 8 years ago, right? And where we're at today is that very surgical approach is really what we're moving towards in this industry, and it's fantastic because if you don't drive that, the efficiency piece, okay, as a business and the sustainability, you've got an expiration date. You have to always be kind of having that Wayne Gretzky, where's the hockey puck going to be versus where's it at today. If I'm living in today, I failed day one. My competitors are probably looking at 5 years out.
That's so true. Just the reliability piece has to be there for that all to happen, you know, and as we go through and we adopt technologies, You know, I'm just waiting for the Tony Stark, like, you know, arc reactor to be popped into a frac pump and get a call from Dave. And he's like, dude, we're doing low yield nuclear frac pumps and power gen. Come over here and help me. And then I get to pull out the rest of my hair to try to figure out, you know, how we do that with our team. But those are the challenges we love, right?
Absolutely.
That's the most fun part, is the technology changes, because if I just focused on my product alone, I'd be really bored. That's why I love working with all the people, is you get that opportunity to just learn from everyone.
Yes. Something new every single day.
Yeah.
If you're not learning, you're not living.
I think that's why I'm addicted to this industry. 100% as a North Carolinian. You know, it's exciting. There's nothing else like it in the world.
Yep.
It's a community. It's a brotherhood. It's a sisterhood.
It is.
And it is the most nepotistic industry I've ever seen. Everyone's related. It's crazy.
It's it's fantastic, man. I love it, and it's gonna be really, really cool. You know, a couple of years from now, just seeing where those step functions continue to evolve inside of the market, and may end up seeing some, you know, Tony Stark technology coming in. It'd be cool to see. I'd say never count anything out.
Hey, you never know.
The great determination is pretty incredible in this industry.
Well, hopefully we've got Chris Wright out there breaking down walls at the DOE, so we can shake that loose.
Yeah.
If it exists.
No, it's super cool.
Yep.
Well, I hear, you know, obviously we got the music going on here in the background.
Yeah, it got loud.
What's planned for the rest of the evening? Just hang out?
Hang out with good friends, customers, maybe meet a few new people. Try not to pass out, because I'm still 9 hours ahead on the Middle East somehow, but I'm awake and alive.
Yes. That jet lag is, oh man, the readjustment.
You did it for a long time, dude.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I could make it work was show up, arrive where I'm going as early as possible, and just push through to exhaust myself.
Yep.
It's tough. Well, you're going to get that chance this evening, Josh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I slept last night 8 hours. The most glorious 8 hours of my life, homie. I mean, I was dead to the world. It was the best I slept, because no offense to my Arab brothers and sisters, but they don't sleep. They go like all day long, dinners until 11 or 12, you know this, and then you got to wake up at 5 or 6 the next morning and do the whole day over again.
Yes.
And it's a grind unlike any other.
It is.
Yep.
It is. Josh, really appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. Been wanting to do this for a while, and glad it lined up and worked out for us.
Yeah, we're happy to be here. We are very thankful to the industry for bringing us in and trusting us to be there to help save units, bring people home, and just be a part of the industry. I love it. I get to now hire people in Texas that are oil and gas people, multi-generational, to help run business units, and that's exciting for me as a North Carolinian who literally was an energy idiot before coming into this. Like, my dad grew up in nuclear and helped build a nuclear plant, but I really didn't understand the cold hard calculus of what really gets energy on the table. I do now after being in the oil and gas industry. I suggest anyone learn about this industry, because it is the most important one that props up all others in the world.
It is. A lot of people take for granted when you go to your, wall in your house and you flip the light switch, right? What it took to get the molecule to the actual generation source, to be able to create the electrons, to arrive at your house, the amount of people, process, technology, it's incredible. And it's something, you need to remember, is it's the people behind it, right?
Yep.
It's pretty cool, dude. So, no, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it again, Josh.
No,
and
thank you, man.
let's go and enjoy some barbecue and have some libations.
You know what? That sounds like a great idea.
Love it.
Thanks
brother.
again,
partner.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
it, man.
Appreciate you folks tuning in to this week's podcast, and we'll be talking next time. Thank you very much.